really am passionate about helping other people, and I have a lot of projects on the table to like suicidal ideation documentary. I have a lot of ideas for programs. I have books. I have a book coming out in January called Planet Walking, a Handbook for the Living. That's another reason why we were talking earlier. This is 911. And what I mean by as a world effort, we need to talk about it. We need to open our arms. We need to get more compassionate with each other.
Welcome, everyone, to another beautiful, amazing episode of the One Moment Podcast. We have an amazing, distinguished guest back with us today, Miss Gina Cavalier.
Thank you.
On her first episode with us, we were talking about suicidal ideations, suicidal attempts, some of the trauma related to that, some of the depression that's related to that, and many other things that's related to that. And of course, where she can be contacted in some of her current projects. And is there anything that you would like for the public to know about you before we jump into heavily today's recording?
Oh my gosh. Just that I really am passionate about helping other people, and I have a lot of projects on the table to like suicidal ideation documentary or a film. And I'm trying to rate or suicidal ideation anonymous. I have a lot of ideas for programs. I have books. I have a book coming out in January called Planet Walking, a Handbook for the Living. So I'm really in this space. But if anybody knows anybody that could put me in touch with, funders or producers or anybody that this is their mission as well, please let me know at GIGI and my last name Cavalier at Gmail. I would appreciate any support. And I'm not good at asking for that. And now I'm realizing I'm having to do that a lot, to start doing that more and more to everybody. And I should have done that I've probably done over 200 podcasts. I probably should have done that because I wasn't asking for anything back. And then I got really depleted. So, and I really am so passionate about it. So, yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. I am going to go ahead and text you a link for you to check out. It's a community network link. It is a Web3 program or platform, very community driven. Check it out. Octant app. It's the Octant app or Octant platform, however you want to say it. A lot of people will do projects and it'll be community funded, community driven, and things like that. Now, you might need what is called a Web3 self custodial wallet, such as Coinbase, MetaMask, something like that.
Okay.
And you're going to need probably some of their cryptocurrency token to get started. But it's an amazing program. I think they run like 90 days. Every 90 days, they take new projects. So you have to submit yours for voting and approval and stuff like that. And every 90 days, like they might do a healthcare community type of podcast like we're doing right now. And then the next round of projects, they might not take a podcast like we're doing. It might be more banking podcast or more banking related information and projects like that. So check them out. I've been following them, and so I'm waiting to see if some of their next episodes or their next season is going to allow for a healthcare wellness podcast, because if so, I'm going to go ahead and submit us for that.
Nice.
So that's one of the things I will send to you. Now, you had a suicidal attempt. You were in your 20s. You felt shameful and embarrassed. And I would like to explore that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any way you can tell us a little bit about what made you feel shameful and embarrassed, and maybe how come people do get that way after a suicidal attempt?
Yes. Well, you have the underlying issue of why you kind of feel disconnected from yourself in the world that is creating the suicidal ideation in the first place. So that's the one thing. And that could be and many things, but just for example, a divorce, you lost your job, you can't pay your bills, you have sick animals and you can't afford to take care of them, you have people in your life that have, or yourself, a debilitating disease, these things that we live with as humans. And that's like the primary thing that you have going on. And then when you kind of raise a white flag and tell people, oh, yeah, on top of it, now I'm suicidal. Um, yeah, there's a shameful aspect, and guilt that you're adding another layer of um, intensity to yourself and the community. And it's embarrassing. So um people don't want to do that. Of course, if you like people talk about of the birth of social media now, for the most part, people like to show their best pictures, their best sides, the building a beautiful life. And we've seen people, I can point to like celebrities or something that, on everything outwardly they seem perfectly fine, and then they left us in a moment's notice. So we're not programmed to put out our dirty laundry in a way like that. And we also don't want to be stigmatized as that for the rest of our lives. And we're already going through something that's debilitating. And the fear is probably the highest on the chart of anything I can ever that I've ever heard of. For example, people that have different diagnoses from therapists, such as bipolar disorder, or even DID, dissociative identity disorder. I mean, it's not like they love putting it out there, but they tell people, "Hey, I have this and this." Like, but like when you talk about suicidal ideation, it comes with a different stigma, and that's why I really put myself out there, because I felt like if I started telling people and you started telling people and are having these conversations, then people could raise a hand and say, "Oh my god, I felt like that before." And every once in a while that comes into my life, and it scares me when it comes around. And I can now see that, you're thriving, you're talking about it, it's not something that I don't let it define me anymore. But when I was young, before I got my healing, before went through my healing process and really fell in love with myself and put myself first, I was scared to more than anything to be labeled as that. And now that's just not a label that I accept. And I realize that I can label myself anything I want, and everybody else can label me as they want. I don't I turn out the noise. I don't care what they label me as anymore. I know what I label myself as, or what I don't label myself as. So, but it's really hard to do that when you're not in a healed state. When you're not in a healed state, it just feels like one more thing I'm going to break, and it's just absolutely terrifying to say that out loud to somebody, more than anything I've ever experienced. Telling somebody, I think, is that, it's the number one thing that if we want to help people is to normalize saying that when you're feeling it. And it's interesting because people know me now, like even my friends and family, they will call me and say I'm feeling suicidal. And I just get right on the phone with them, and they know they can do it. And then usually almost every single time within an hour, we're laughing. We've uh we've found a moment of peace and laugh through whatever situation they're going through. And and it can pass really that quickly. Suicidal ideation is one of the most interesting mental conditions ever seen, because it can literally come and envelop you and be in your space so deeply, and one person can change it like that. And there's nothing else around. I mean, the other mental health conditions are really, might take medication or might take off years of talk therapy. I don't know. I've seen a lot of people change their circumstances that day, that moment, through another person and their story. So that's why this is just absolutely important, and we need to have it, blasted all over the world, because it's a worldwide crisis.
I think you're right. And one of the things that I want to add to what you were just saying. You said normalize conversations around mental health and suicide, suicidal ideations, things like that. But I think we need to get back also to a world, an atmosphere where we are humanizing ourselves. Because how many times do we have a situation happen and then we just say the absolute worst negative things about ourselves? It's baffling to me that, and even I fall victim to that too, that, things can happen and I'm just like, oh God, it's just never going to be good. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm just worthless. I'm useless. And I'm talking that negative stuff to myself, that negative self-talk, and I'm not humanizing myself. I'm not saying things like, okay, if you're supposed to make that mistake because what are you learning from it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
we
go
were
ahead.
talking. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I thought you were done.
No, ladies, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, that's going back to yes, it's like normalizing it for your self, but also we were talking about how quickly someone who's suicidal within a weeks can turn homicidal. And that's another reason why we were talking earlier. This is 911. And what I mean by as a world effort, we need to talk about it. We need to open our arms. We need to get more compassionate with each other. The divisiveness online and things like that is only separating us more. And um, we are seeing more and more mass shootings. I mean, when I was a kid, we hardly ever saw mass shootings, and the stats changed so much. So I don't want to quote it, but at one point, I think like a year ago, we were averaging 2 mass shootings a day, and that seems like a lot. It is a lot, but they don't get on the news all the time anymore. They just don't. And it's because a mass shooting is where somebody uses a firearm or some, uh, and they hurt 4 or more people. So if it's not big enough and people haven't been killed or die, haven't passed away and stuff, and it's not in school, that might not get publicized on national news. So we're really not, we're really in this 911 right now. And also, what's happening lately, you know, with these things that are going on. So I believe that the people that carry out mass shootings or assassinations or anything like that, I think the people holding those guns are suicidal. They are to me. I without knowing exactly stats and having a crew that could prove that right now, I'm just saying to me in my doing this for a long time, those people are suicidal and now they want to take someone with them, and they're angry over whatever has created it. So, if we want to have less mass shootings, I think we need to look at the suicide aspect of it all because maybe 8 times out of 10 they get taken out by the police. So I think they're suicidal. So I think we need to apply this to that platform as well. It's not just the individual that is suffering in the moment that right now, but this is sort of 911 as a community. Like if you don't want to see those and you want your kids to be able to go to college without having, to be in covered in protective glass all the time everywhere they go. We don't want that for our future. We really need to look at this in a deeper way, and we need to get funding. That's why I opened up with funding. We just there's funding for so many things that I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and I've struggled getting any kind of funding. I've reached out to everybody you can ever imagine, to every network you can imagine, to every publisher, a PBS. You know, I put $30,000 worth into a trailer for a documentary, and I couldn't sell the project idea. I have a full Ukrainian film crew on hold. Um, you know, so it just showed me that that wasn't where, and we were going to do it in a way that is not all doom and gloom. If as I talk about it, I'm not bringing people down. I'm bringing levity. You can hear it in my voice. I've trained myself to be completely in a heart space and compassionate when I talk, so I people can see that I really actually care for your children in your life. And so it's not here for us to judge people. It's really here to let's look at it. Almost, I go back to let's when that FBI team was created to research serial killers. and they use that right now a lot. I mean, it's a whole program on how that's how they find serial killers. We need to do the same thing as like find out why people are suicidal. We need to break it out by maybe culture, break it out by history, break it out by um, maybe family lineages. And, it needs to be really digested and looked at and spoken in these open forums. And the more we talk about it, if we were in a stadium and, we all closed our eyes and we said, raise your hand if you've ever felt suicidal. I bet you there's going to be a big amount of hands put up. So this is, this is something that touches everybody worldwide. So why doesn't it get the conversation that it needs to have? We spend way too much time talking about politics on the left and the right constantly instead of like really honing in on like our people are suffering and we need to give them more reprieve.
Yes, I 1000% could not agree more. We spend more time on politics and all these other ideas and topics, and yet I don't think we spend enough time talking about healthcare and actually what is going to be of benefit to people. Uh, I was talking about this yesterday. One of the problems that is actually, it was last night with one of my nurses. One of the biggest problems I see in healthcare is there's this thing called best practice. Well, okay, we can talk about best practice. Research posits this, or policy posits this. This, that, and the third, right? But one of the things I see less of is risk taking. Some of the research in suicidal ideations, a lot of private practitioners, private practice folks, they don't feel comfortable talking about suicidal
Hmm.
ideations or suicide with their patients. And so, as soon as somebody screams, "Hey, I'm thinking about suicide, thinking about harming myself," I need you to go to the emergency room, like right now. Well, let's kind of rein those horses in a little bit. Um, is that really best practice, or is it me and my competence or lack thereof? Like, what's stopping me from approaching this? What's stopping me from talking about this? And one of the things that I would like to, maybe encourage is not only do we need the funding, but we also need the training. And you're talking about doing this documentary, and it makes me think of a project I started a year ago, and that's doing research on the 6 stages of suicidal ideations and seeing how it escalates. And of course, not everybody goes through from stage 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and so on and so forth. People can go from 1 to 6 just like that. People can go to
Yeah.
1 to 4 just like that. People can go from 6 to 1 just like that. And so I think you're right. It's not only the funding, not only the continued conversation around the topic of suicide, but also, the training. Like, we need training on this.
Well,
And
that's why
so,
I wrote my first book. We have it 1 through 5. We have
mhm,
1 through 5 the stages of suicidal ideation, and then we have 1 to 5 the stages of healing. So they can kind of correlate. So you can work the program and work the workbook. And so the book is really well written. I wrote it with a co-author, Dr. Amelia Kelly, who has a practice in North Carolina. And she's amazing. I'm so grateful that she wrote this book with me, but she does talk about the training a lot, and that's sort of why we did the book. The book is not just for the individual, but a because she's a trained therapist, and I think she has several therapists under in her practice. She talks about how a little bit all these things are something a therapist can also join in and help with their, we have writing techniques, art, meditations, and then we have a whole resource list in the back. Absolutely though. We do talk about training. They just they get fearful and then they don't know what to do either. But this is something they have to be, like I said, what all those hands in that stadium, we need people trained. And you know what else I heard? That police officers are not trained in suicidal situations, and they're actually the ones that have to respond usually the first with any issues or problems, and they're not trained. They're not trained. It is not a part of the program and their protocol. Nurses are not trained. They're not trained. So, yes, I mean, we're missing a big, you know, we from both sides, like you said, the individual who's suffering, but also the people. I mean, when I learned that the police officers and the nurses aren't, that isn't a thing. I think they have like a 1 day class or on it or something small like that. There's like small requirements, but they're not trained in it any way, and they don't know how to deal with it. Think about police. They're the ones that are, if someone's suicidal, they'll call the police. They're not trained and they don't know how to deal with that person or what to do. And you're right. That's a big deal. Big deal.
And I think part of the major issue with the training is what are we being taught? Because as a if I were to be in a private practice and somebody said they were suicidal, well, let's talk about it a little bit. You know, let's try to get to some of the root causes, or at least identify some of the triggers, the root causes, and then you want to assess for plan and lethality. Do you have access to anything? Do you and then you want to also assess for are you actively planning on, like, are you actively acting on this plan? um and so a lot of factors come into play when it comes to, you know, the training, assessing for when do they need to get help, when do they need to dial 988, 911, things like that. A lot of factors go into play there, and every individual is different. You have various cultural factors that go into play. You have racial, age, gender. A lot of things go into play when it comes to you know, to suicide, suicidal ideation, suicidal attempts. And then you have to look at it, was it an impulse decision? Is it an impulse decision? Or,
Mhm.
I mean, things like that, because if it's an impulse decision, then that's a different set of circumstances right there. And so you're absolutely right. And so I guess my question to you is because I know what stopped me from talking about it. I'm a therapist, for number one. Number two is I shouldn't think this way, right? Number three is it was medication induced, and I'm going to be judged because it was medication. Number four is my provider is going to lock me up in a unit, you know, have me IVC to a institution, and then that's going to affect my Second Amendment rights. That's going to affect my ability to practice. All of those things. I wasn't planning it. I wasn't, you know, thinking about it. It was literally medication induced impulse decision.
Mhm.
Right. That's what happened for me. I was
Mhm.
in the heat of a discussion, and then I just literally
Yeah.
I mean, you can just imagine. And so that was, and because I have all those labels as the therapist, you shouldn't think
Yeah.
like things like that. That's what stopped me from talking about it for 6 months. Like, I was ashamed. I was afraid. I didn't feel good enough. I felt like I was a worthless therapist. All of those things. So you're right when you said the shame and embarrassment, those thought processes that come after the fact. What do you feel like needs to be like? I, I guess when we talk about the training and we're talking about, so it's going to be a double question here. What do you feel like, as it relates to training and talking about it, is the most critical need or critical first step?
You gotta be calm. You have to just take a breath and be calm. Be calm. You have to be calm. If you get the information, you have to be calm. If you're giving that it's just getting to that calm space and not freaking out because um that's definitely what I've seen of people if, like, especially if they have a younger kid. I mean, my brother is a school counselor, and I've talked to him about and he was in my trailer for my documentary, and, I asked him, like, "What was the youngest kid that has come to you and saying he's suicidal?" And he's, like, 6, you know? So, the he has protocols, schools have protocols for that, but he said the hardest part was getting the parents to believe them. They're like, "Oh, no, you must have misheard him. Oh, no, not my kid. Oh, no, that's not real." He said 9 times out of 10, that was their first reaction. And then if not, then their other reaction was panic, and they would just lose their mind and not be calm and just like and be unhinged immediately. And it's to stay calm, like everything's gonna be okay. Go through, just take a breather, go for a walk. Hey, okay, all right. Thank you for telling me. Um, I'm here for you. Why don't we go outside for a walk for a minute, and then just kind of walk it off a little bit, or get the energy to shift for a moment, put some calming music on. Just like what they do for people that have neurological things, like maybe even severe autism or something. They'll put on meditative music in an environment they don't even hear, like it's naturally calming them. They don't even, um create a calming environment. I mean, literally the word is just calm, just be calm, and then you can kind of plan out and figure out what the next step is. As you get more into it, you can have a safety document. I actually had an idea that this is one of my tech ideas. I want to reach out. I just got to know. I want to reach out to Elon Musk. I want him to do this, but it's a part of like a widget that you can get on your phone, and it's like a suicidal ideation widget, and it's completely anonymous, but you can populate it with and it gives you all the suggestions like in the folder. So basically, like if you're a father and you have on again, off again suicidal ideation, and you want to protect yourself and your family, just go up to your son or daughter and say, "Hey, daddy wants a little video about how much you love daddy." Just, get that video, bank it in your widget. Have your wife, have your mom, your dad, a picture of your dog or anything like that. And I'm just getting chills all over my body as I'm saying this, like, but where when you're no, and you've been in those moments, if you were to populate a video of that little kid saying, "Daddy, I love you so much. You are my hero and you make my life better every day." Think in seeing that video and populating this like widget with all those memories and those things, things like that. And that's why I'm saying, uh, there's a lot of money going to so many different areas. This is not a like this concept isn't like groundbreaking. It's just sometimes we need to go to the simplest thing and we can create tools for people that are pretty simple, but they just need support and money and support from every single person that has had this in their life or around their life, or have lost a loved one. Like, we need to really all find a way to demand that we have these kind of programs and things like that. But because something like that, if I had that on my phone and had my friends going, "Gina, I love you, you're awesome," that thing that really gets you going, like my mom or something, like, oh my gosh, I love videos of my dogs running around, and then in there you would put your safety package. Oh, you have your emergency phone numbers, and those are when you have more advanced healing, you can reach out to people and say, "Hey, I have some struggles. Do you mind being on my 911 list that I can call when I'm having an issue?" And most people will say yes. And if you have two or three people on there, I have two people that I can call at any time, no matter what, and they will not judge me. And I can call them in the middle of the night, and they will pick up, and they already know my situation. And I honestly tell you that within like 30 minutes of having that conversation with that person, like that, my whole energy shifts from, you just get hopeful. I mean, you can really turn it around in like 20 minutes, from a stage 4 or 5. Like, you really can, if that right person who gets you, like, is there in your space, and then you trust them, and you understand, and then the next day you go on and make a plan to continue with your mental health. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, and it's about being able to identify what our protective factors are. And when you're able to do that, when we are able to identify our protective factors, then that gives us hope. That gives us a renewing of our goals of, maybe what are we pushing forward to? What are we hoping to accomplish? It could be in this specific relationship. What are we hoping to do across the board? in our lives? What are we hoping to accomplish in our careers? So I think you're right. Definitely love the idea of having some type of suicidal type of app that goes on the phone that we can add those uh, protective factors, those videos, those photos, do those goals, do that safety plan, things like that. I definitely love that idea because then I don't have to worry about trying to read something that I got from, you know, from my provider or from my therapist. I don't have to worry about trying to, find that piece of paper. It's right there on my phone.
Yeah, as soon as when you're in a bad state and you try to type in "I'm suicidal," oh my gosh, it's just eh, other than 988 pops up, that's good and things like that, but it's overwhelming. You just, like, start reading and you get more depressed. There's no light to it, like, it just brings you down fat you can't consume it. You're not in that space. That's for when you're not in a 911 space. But when you are in a 911 space, I'm sorry, anything that is internet related, or for the most part, I can just doesn't feel like it is very helpful in those moments. You need something tangible now. And a lot of people are lonely and they don't have that tangible person right next to them all the time, or ability to be call their therapist or things like that. So we need to create more things that are things that they can reach out to that's been formulated with them in mind. You know, maybe we can have like clips of Disney films in there that are really funny, or like just funny jokes and things like, I mean, it could be also things like that. I mean, because when I was having a really hard time, I sometimes would just put on a Disney film. I mean, honestly, just lighten the mood, like, and it's to me that's something that works for me because I love like creativity and color, and it's just it helps bring you out. Having awareness of your space is really important. I tell people a lot of times, like, it's okay to read or watch the news in the morning or something as a part of your culture, like to get the daily news, but don't keep it on all day long. If you have, uh, I have a lot of friends that are just going through some stuff, and I'm like, "Do you have the news on all day?" And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, you have to have some self-awareness of, like, your environment and how you're contributing to your thing, and say, "Oh, no wonder I'm so depressed. Like, maybe I should go for a walk, turn the TV off, put on some music, put on some Al Green," or, you have to really have your own awareness, and be a part you are a part of the solution. So, like, you really, there's things that you can do to change it.
Absolutely. And it's what I always encourage patients when I do my one of my favorite groups ever, and I've turned it into a DBT related group. So I've had to take it kind of from I've had to modify it slightly, but and I don't mind it because I think it's even better now. But it's called Coffee with Kev. Right, that's the
Mhm.
name of the group, and at surface level, it's like, well, what the heck is Coffee with Kev? Well, it's just
Coffee.
a yeah, right, and it's just an open type of platform, therapeutic group that is very process oriented. And so I always tell people at the beginning of group when I explain it, I say, listen, this group is focused on not just a problem, but the solution. Because for so long, we are living in the problem, right? Whatever that problem is going to be different for everyone. But for so long, we live in that problem. And so let's try to start working toward living in the solution. And if we can jump into that solution, that is key there. That
Mhm.
is key. Because for you, it could be Disney movies, as you said, right? For the next person, it might not be Disney because they might not be a Disney person.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge Disney person, right? So what worked for me during that whole moment of doing the shame and feeling all of those things was doing the podcast, doing the video editing, going to work, still being the best therapist that I could be, it was, still focusing on building qualitative relationships, doing qualitative clinical services. It was still focused on making mistakes at work. Can I continue to, be a better employee, fix all these mistakes, what I'm making? Uh, I mean, just all of those stuff. I'm pushing myself to new challenges, to overcome new challenges. And
Yeah.
uh, now I do like humorous movies. Adam Sandler is one of my favorite comedians. I freaking love Adam Sandler. He is a, oh gosh, amazing movie
Yeah.
actor. But and that's where I kind of get some of my
I like
humor.
Jack Black, like I like Shallow Hal or Nacho Libre, or that's what I'm saying though. It's just like you can't not laugh at that stuff. Just
Oh,
keep it on the background. You don't have to sit, just you pop around. You're like, ah, like just say like lighten it up. I mean, and there is like a call I'd like to make also to content creators and studios. And, I worked in the industry for 25 years. So I worked at Warner Brothers, I worked at Disney, I worked for Netflix, I did all that. And I pretty much was able to just avoid a lot of the scary films, like being on those as properties. And I'm so grateful because I was on like Harry Potter, Fantastic Beasts. I think the scariest film I was on was Constantine, and that was done really well. And I'll never forget that movie because I had to screen that film at 9 in the morning, and it was all about like devils and demons and stuff. And I literally had to go home afterwards. I was like scared. But uh I know there's always going to be, and I don't like to like, I'm not trying to censor creators, but have some kind of a balance. There's just way, like if you open up Netflix, there was like an animated series that just came on, Haunted something on Netflix, and I was like, oh my god, I love animation, even if it's quirky, like Bob's Burgers, Simpsons. I mean, and it can, South Park. It could be still smart and adult and everything. And the first scene is this kid getting stabbed by a ghost like over and over again, trying to murder him, and it was like, oh, it's just a ghost. And I was just like, everything is just saturated in murder and killing and stalking and rape and suicide. And it's interesting how suicide's in so many movies, and it's adapted in so many contexts, but like we don't talk about it. So it's like, why can't we, it's in being ingrained in all of our programming. Like we just have to have more of a balance. If it's all horror movies and murder, what do you expect our next generation growing up to be? I mean, we're creating the stuff for these kids to watch. We're creating it. And kids only follow what their parents do. When a 20-something-year-old kid goes and shoots somebody dead, you have to look at their environment. You have to, what, what were they watching? What were the people around them involved in? Yeah, I just, and how, if that's going to happen more and more, you know, we want our kids to be able to be safe to go to colleges and things like that. It's like, if you want that kind of world, we need to pull back, the video games. I mean, there's got to be something. It doesn't mean to censor, but maybe we can find a balance where there's equal amount or something. I don't know what the answer is there, but when someone like, because I'm very sensitive to content, so I'll just be like, oh, cute, I'll watch that. And sometimes I'll watch like a rom-com that I think is marketed as a rom-com and that I like. And then all of a sudden, I remember one movie looks just like this romanticizing rom-com, right? And I open it up and I watch it, and literally like 10, maybe 5, 10 minutes in, one of the main characters commits suicide. And this was at a time when I was still struggling, and it totally triggered me. I had to turn it off, and I felt my whole body start to go into panic. I just wasn't ready for that because I was just like, oh, I'm going to sit down and watch a rom-com, and that's going to help me feel better tonight. I mean, it triggered me so bad. And, you know, why can't we have like, hey, I think they're starting to do this maybe a little bit more, but hey, there is subject matter of suicide on here or something. Like, they don't really do that anymore. They have like some like, oh, nudity, and like, and nobody even looks at those things anymore. But and again, it's a big giant fur ball. I don't even know what the answer is, but I just like to put it out there. It's just like, because they are creating what the consumers are demanding, right? And what they're watching. So maybe they're just creating what everybody says they want to see. So as a collective, maybe we can say, hey, we don't want to see that all the time. I don't know. There's my soapbox right there for everything.
Right.
I mean,
Oh,
because when I was a kid, my mom took me to see, like, exorcists and things like that, and it scared me. I mean, I didn't as a kid, I didn't know how for a long time as a kid, I really thought that the world was separated by absolutely good and evil. So, you know, if I saw something, I'd be like, "Oh, that's a demon, maybe they're possessed," you know? I was informed by the content I was watching. There's no way to not be informed. So if a kid is watching, like, playing a shoot 'em up game 8 hours a day, you know, and smoking a lot of pot's legal in so many places now, which is, you know, good for some things, but I on my podcast, I had a lot of brain doctors on, and they're saying how the pot is just too strong nowadays. It's, the THC level is up to 36-40%. And, you know, in the '70s, it was only 7%, you know? So now it literally is, you know, contributing to all kinds of different things, depression. They're losing they're saying we're gonna have a huge wave of dementia, um, of people in their 40s with dementia from all this super intense pot, and it's depressing them. So, you know, sorry, I went on another rant.
I love it, and there are a lot of things that are clinically concerning to me. One with the THC content being significantly higher than what it was in the '60s, '70s, '80s, '90s. Even in when I was coming along, I mean, shoot, pot was, I mean, it was stronger during my era than it was in the '70s and '80s, but and it's causing a lot of clinical concerns across the board, from psychoses to THC induced schizophrenia like symptoms, and suicidal behaviors, aggressive behaviors to others. You're right. And I think, you know, I don't know the answer. I don't know the solution, but I definitely would have to agree with you on one thing you said. We've gotten to a point, I think, in society where, and we spoke about this on our show when we were talking about gun violence and violence. We've gotten to a point where we've normalized it in society. And I don't mean like to talk about it. No, no, I don't mean from that. But you turn the TV on, and wow, two people shot in Chicago 2 hours ago. Wow, assassination attempt. Wow, murdered family and such and such. I mean, just so on and so forth, right? Like, we've normalized this thing across the board. And so I don't know what the solution is as a whole, but I think, you know, part of the, you know, a lot of the things that I think should be done is when you look at various cultures and various families, there's a one parent household. Well, I think we should, instead of incentivizing single parent households, let's incentivize both parents being in the household, right? You know, have programs established. Some states, like for an example, Colorado, they have like a domestic violence program where if an individual gets, you know, convicted or charged with it, the court will sanction them to a domestic violence program, but they'll still be allowed to do, you know, many certain things. Maybe live in the household with the significant other or the wife or their spouse or whatever. And I'm not normalizing domestic violence by any means. I'm not saying that's okay. No, I condemn domestic violence, but people should be giving chance and opportunity to improve and make changes in their lives, rather than, if you look for an example at the war on drugs, right? That devastated minority families, I mean, across the board. And I get the fact that uh, cocaine is not good. Alcohol intoxication to an extreme is not good. I get meth is not good. Heroin, fentanyl, all of these drugs are not good. Yet let's look at the history and the facts here. Cocaine is only illegal because black people started using it after rich white folks began using it, or right.
I
Uh,
didn't know.
and so we pass this war on drugs, and who's affected most, more often than not. And so I think you're what you're everything you said. I think it does hold weight. Every time we do an episode, like when I do that, when we do the editing on this, is going to be a warning label at the very beginning. You might be triggered by watching this or listening to this. Please seek help immediately if needed.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we're doing our part. We
Right.
are trying, you just gotta, it is hard because I've gotten so many no's. I get a few yeses, like I got my publishers and stuff and they support me. Um, but, just like today, I think I applied for 5 different documentary grants, and, each time I have to submit like $50, like I literally have put in um, my entire retirement into this subject matter, and I really thought it would bring a return. So I'm like, oh, it'll come back, and it hasn't yet. Um, and that's okay. That was a part of my journey, but and it kind of took me out for a little bit because I literally got down to, having quite a bit and, being very resourceful. And then, just kept nudging away at everything because I really was passionate about this. And then now I'm kind of coming back up and saying, okay, I used all my own money and now I really need help and I really need support and I really need partners. And that's why I told you, like, I'll come on your podcast, as much as you want, once a month or more. Um, I'm recharged in a positive way, but now I'm going to finally start asking for help. And I think that's where, for me, that was really hard to do for a long time. Um, I also think people like us who are survivors, like, it is really hard to ask for help on anything, just, I don't know, that's a struggle that I'm overcoming now. I'm like, I'm going to ask everybody now. And it's because I see the suffering people are going through and, um, I feel it. And I mean, I can't help it. I can't watch too many things. I can't, even social media, like, it's just too of a tearjerker. I just see things that really affects me, whether it's animal abuse, elderly abuse, child abuse, children dying, and I just say, and to, so all I have for me, I just lean in on, um, keeping the light of it all and bringing levity to it as much as possible. But, you know, we are we need to build the world that we wanna have, and at a certain point, we have to start looking at it and saying, "What kind of world do we want?" And then, "Oh, well, maybe, maybe this is imbalanced, maybe," and I don't, like, again, you can't tell people what to watch. I think maybe what the answer would be then is to, raise up the community where they have their own awareness, so they're not choosing that all the time, right? And for me, energy, like, is a same energy, right? So if I'm depressed, and I'm gonna be like continue, like, every time I go home after work, I'm gonna watch another murderous thing, or I'm gonna play a murderous game and things like that. Like, I'm just putting that more in my space. You know what I mean? So it's almost like you gotta put it on the individual in a way, because just like when they're saying how, parents, parenting their child, it's like they say you gotta look at the parents first. It's not the school or and it's like, maybe we have to put it to the families and the individuals and saying, like, we need to switch this and realize, I don't even think people realize how much it's in their space, you know? And like I said, like, with all of what's going on with shootings and stuff like that, it's really hard for me to watch the news for too long. I literally check in the morning. I do a quick 15 minutes so I know what's going on in the world. and then I tune it out for the rest of the day, and I just go, okay, I want to help people, so I need to stay in this healthy mindset, um, because I'm not good the other way. So
Yeah, and one thing that's a big part of recovery is learning your boundaries with certain things. Like my boundaries is, for an example, with politics. I don't dive into politics at all. I might see different bits and clips and pieces of it, but I don't pay no attention to it just because I know that if I can easily allow myself to go down a rabbit hole, right? And my that's not my goal. My goal in life, my mission in life is not to jump into politics. And unfortunately, some people are built for politics, and I
yeah, that's their passion, and they should be able
right,
to do passion.
right,
Um, but we can't help our we have to realize that our brains are a program, and we have our brains are intense, we have our heart, and then we have our gut. We almost have like three brains in our body. And this supercomputer is doing what it's supposed to do, which is receiving information and processing it. That's why we remember the past so well. And our heart is what we have to overcome the brain sometimes and say, that's the past, that's no longer happening. No, I'm not going to watch. It's really just kind of telling us stuff. But like you said, if you could easily spin out of control and then for some reason the brain is programmed to have this energy of right versus wrong, you know? And so you start to develop some type of idea of what you believe is really right. And then you see something really wrong. And then, you know, now you are holding that energy that you cannot create from that space. You cannot build it's hard to build healthy relationships in that space. It's hard to build new companies, whatever or to draw or write or do a song or music. Like you can't create from that space in a healthy way. So, and creation is the best way to, I think, lighten your energy. If you're going through anything that you're struggling, um, creation to me is just, whether it's journaling or gardening or taking piano lessons or pottery. I mean, the world is filled with so many beautiful things. And that's another thing when I realized when I was suicidal, I was like, oh my gosh, I will never hear music again. Like, I love music so much, whether, I mean, from all different kinds of genres. Like, oh, I don't want to tune that out. I don't want that out of my life forever. Like, actually that was like I remember being like, "Oh, no, I'm gonna stay because I love music." I'm not even a musician, but like I did not. I told myself, "Do you ever not want to hear another song again?" And I said, "No." Do you not ever want to see another puppy again, or a whale or a dolphin? Or I mean, this planet is the most rich and beautiful thing in the entire we have so many things, and it's where we're putting our focus, and we're kind of getting programmed that way. It's like focus on open your phones, focus on the news and what's happening today, and where do you fit in, where are your ideals. Now you have to go over to this other platform and you have to see where everybody else is talking about it, and then you have to start commenting it on it. Now you're just opening up these dialogues with strangers that don't really matter to you, but you have opposite viewpoints, instead of going out there and like literally seeing uh, or educating yourself in a whole other thing that you could have done, and inspiring that next you know uh, pioneer like Musk or Edison or Van Gogh, or like you can't create from that space is what I'm saying. Yeah.
and I have to agree. It's allowing ourselves to just be authentic, allowing ourselves to just experience the present moment, identifying goals, right? Like it's there's so much to this life and to this world. I mean, we have a whole outer space we haven't even really even barely scratched the surface on, much less our own backyard. And when it comes to recovery, we have to build a recovery program that is much more beautiful than I even think it should be, right? Like, even if I don't think I can accomplish it, you still put it on there. I mean, of course, be realistic. Like, I'm not going to be the richest man in the world ever. I'm not going to put that on my recovery plan, right? But like, you know, I mean, one of our goals for us when we started this podcast, and this was about 3 months in, is we wanted to be one of the largest mental health related podcasts in the whole world. Now that's a major goal. Can it be done? Yeah, but eh, are we going to do it tonight, tomorrow, next year? Probably not. I mean, we've only had I think now 150 plus thousand views since January the 8th. That's pretty decent
Yeah.
for 8, 9 months, but our goal is to continue to do what we're doing right now, because this is our passion. This is what we enjoy. We enjoy meeting with people and talking to people, and let's just continuing to break down stigmas and barriers and gaps and everything else. And I think when it comes to a recovery plan, it needs to be subjective. When healthcare systems scream, "Oh, person-centered treatment, person-centered this, person-centered that," oh, bull hockey, you're full of shit. I'm just being straight with you. Not you, but to the healthcare
Yeah.
system, they're completely full of shit. Uh, person-centered care is subjective with that individual, and so what that individual identifies or works for that person should be up to he or she. It's not what I think that person should be. So, like, for, going back to that Disney, example, you enjoyed watching Disney, right? And you still do. I'm not a Disney person. So why am I going to watch Disney movies on that, put that on my recovery plan or treatment plan? I think eh, I think we need to stop normalizing many things, and we need to start humanizing one another. And
Mhm.
I think if we were to do that, we would see a decrease in violence toward ourselves and also toward others.
Yeah. I mean, we've just entered a different era in the last few months, I think, you know, just to see people fighting over, to me, how somebody could be taken out over a microphone, you know what I mean? And like, and having to justify why that was right or not right, that scared me more than anything, honestly, is watching the reaction from, uh, I think, I wasn't around when John F. Kennedy was shot or Martin Luther King, but um, I, I have a vision that it brought people together, like together as a country, and said, "Oh, this is not the way we want to go." And that's kind of what I was hoping it was going to be like, you know, almost like 9/11. 9/11 was so tragic, and I like even the visuals like give me chills instantly. I can't even watch like a 9/11 documentary. I just can't even go there. But there was a man, a country, like we there wasn't this division from what I remember. We were all like, no, we're together, we love each other. We're not, it was just this there I never been in part of a country that was so together at that moment. And to see people just hugging each other, we just lost 3,000 people in one day or whatever. And we never experienced that. And I just remember that sense of patriotism. And um when I heard, about Charlie Kirk, I almost thought, well, I wonder if it's going to be like that again with the 9/11, and it hasn't been. And that's why it's been really disheartening, just for me, uh, I just, yeah, I mean, just saying in general, I just wish that wish that we'd come together, and I'm seeing that we're splitting again and splintering again more and more. And I think people on both aisles are suffering, and, you know, our soul doesn't have a, political, But, I don't know. I'm not really qualified to talk on that stuff because that's not my area of expertise or what I know a lot about. It's more about helping people who are suicidal, but yeah, it's sad and I really, I don't know, like you said, humanizing and normalizing that it's okay just to support someone taking someone out who's carrying a microphone. I just can't support that.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I concur with you too, and unfortunately, we're not. I mean, we're 24 years past 9/11, and I wasn't around when whatever happened with, as you said, JFK and Dr. Martin Luther King, and of course I was here for 9/11, and I remember I was in the sixth grade of Mr. Bates' class,
uh,
or no, yeah, no, I was in homeroom.
oh
I was
my
in
god.
at Contentia Elementary School. I remember that, and of course I'm here for the what happened with Charlie, and eh, uh, I this is my proposed solution, like you just said. We need to get back to a idea where we need to start humanizing one another, like regardless of background, culture, race, ethnicity, gender, whatever. If we could just learn to set myself aside, right, and let me ask you about you, let me learn about you, then I think we could I think we can start that process of that solution, or start walking down that path of a potential solution. The problem that I see a lot of, this is with people that, I mean, and I teach patients this, right, is too often, more often than not, we allow politics, religion, labels, judgments, and everything to do this to us. And I can't see you, right?
He's
And
covering.
right. But now, and just imagine this being an invisible lens where I'm able to see through, right? I'm seeing you through the lens that I have on. And what I need to do really, or learn to do, is take my judgments and labels and everything else from here and keep them at arm's length.
Yeah.
Because then I'm seeing you not through my lens, not through all of this stuff, and that I see you as a human being who, at the core of both of us, you think and you feel just like I do. You're biologically wired to think and feel that way. And you also have a right to think what you think. You have a right to feel the way you feel. And it's not up to me to control that. And that's what I hope that, I have been able to, in my career so far, is to help people get to that point where their stuff is arm's length, right? And not covering their eyes, or not dictating every decision that they make. Does that make
Well,
sense?
it does. And we're on the same page, and I hope everybody is following along. And of course, we just want to send a big virtual hug out to anybody who's suffering through um, anything right now, um, and well wishes for your self healing and self love. And um, all I can say is my life changed when I fell in love with myself. And I didn't know I didn't love myself. I thought I loved myself. I thought I liked myself. But at the end of the day, I was treating everybody better than I was treating myself. And that was such a big lesson. And so now, um, I falling in love with myself and putting myself first has been really hard, um, but it's changed my life because I've learned, especially if you've been brought up without a lot of boundaries, or um, a lot of parental guidance and things like that, or I've learned how to have boundaries. I've learned how to ask for what I want. I've learned how to communicate so much better. I was a terrible communicator about anything. I was always in fear, like, oh, I can't tell my friend that because then they won't like me. I can't tell I don't wanna lose him as a friend, and so, I was not living an authentic life, and it wasn't a giant, unauthentic life, like, it was a big lie, but I wasn't those daily things of not being able to be yourself, like, was just killing me slowly, and, you know, that's what suicidal ideation turns into. It's like a slow death if you don't work on it. It just gets worse and worse and worse, and then all of a sudden, one time, you're just looking at a tree and you're like, "Okay, I think I'm just gonna go today." And that's what we're here to try to avoid, and, I did it through self-love, and now, even in my mind, when I have a situation, because those situations never go away. Conflict never goes away. There's not a single I know we can, like, look at someone's life and, like, their life is so great, but there isn't a single person that doesn't have conflict in their life and stress and pain and things that they're going through. And it's blanketed, And, so nobody's different in that way, but learning how to, yeah, put yourself first, but still being kind to the other people, but just saying, "Hey, I just where I'm at this time in my life, I can't do that." Or "I can't go out drinking tonight, please. I know you guys want to. I'm not judging you," or "But I need to stay at home and I need to be more healthy." Or, really putting in these healthy boundaries for yourself. And, you know, even my first husband, I mean, one of the reasons why we broke up, I believe, is because I started not drinking as much, and he loves to drink. Um, and so because he was actively around alcohol all the time and I kind of wasn't, it was like almost we started separating the energy. And I was scared to lose him. So there was a long time that I would drink just so I wouldn't lose him, you know? And I look back at that now. I mean, I never look back as in like I should have done something, but it's like I wasn't being my authentic self. I felt tired. I was gaining weight. I felt uninspired. I couldn't dream. Uh, you know what I mean? I couldn't write. It's just like it wasn't me, and I'm just not being me because I wanted to not lose a person. You know, so it's like really learning those boundaries. And when you love yourself, you just do that more often. You really do. And then it becomes habit, and then you won't let anybody cross your lines, and that's when you become dangerous, but in a good way. You know what I mean? I'm like, no, sorry. Even in my employers, like, I need you to do this. I'm like, sorry, that doesn't work with my wellness plan. And they're just like, really? And I'm like, I'm a good employee, right? Like, yeah, you're great. Well, I'm putting boundaries in. I would have never been able to do that before. I just would do, "Oh, yeah, okay, sure, anything you want, okay, whatever you want, oh, sure, I'll work," and I gave everybody everything till I had nothing left. I know someone resonates with that. And then you are depleted, and then you go home and you're lay in bed and you're like, I feel empty inside, and I'm not living authentically. I'm not, you know, and it is scary. I did lose a lot of friends you know, s being who I wanted to be, but is it better to have those people in your life and not be authentic, you know? So that happens a little bit later when you fall in love with yourself. But I wanted to kind of more end on a hopeful, like when you fall in love with yourself, you actually do love yourself. You won't to me the key is when you love yourself, you won't hurt yourself. So however, like, it was in your mind before, like, when you would daydream about, like, how you might exit this earth by yourself, you can't even think of those things anymore because you love yourself. It's like loving your animal. You wouldn't do that to them. Now you become like, you wouldn't do that to you. Like, all those visions I used to have of self-harm, like, they're gone. I can't even think about them anymore. Like, so yes, that's why I say, surviving suicidal ideation and healing it because that's why I tell people I'm pretty healed from it, not 100%, but for the most part, because I can't hold those images at all. My mind like wipes it away. It just says, nope, that's not you anymore, girl. I'm like, oh, okay, move on. So you can get there and they can go away.
Beautiful. That
Thank
is
you.
so beautiful. And I'd have to say, I think that's a great place to really kind of wrap us up because
Mhm.
we've talked about a lot today,
Yeah,
and
a lot.
I mean, a lot. Like we've covered or, you know, uncovered many stones. And I love the way that you just brought the hope back in at the end.
Mm,
You that was so beautiful. Thank you.
thank
And
you.
so I guess some of the next steps as far as, you know, your current projects, where do you what are some of your thoughts or what are some of your needs right now moving forward? Some of your immediate needs for what
Well,
things you're working on, and where can people find or go to help?
thank you, Kevin. In One Moment podcast. Um, Gina Cavalier, my Instagram is Gina Cavalier, or ginacavalier.com. Is pretty much where you get a hold of me and my books and everything. And my books are all on Amazon worldwide. Planet Walking, a Handbook for the Living is coming out January 6th, and then you can order it, pre-order. And that's basically just how to live on the planet. There is a 6-week program about suicidal ideation in there as well. Surviving Suicidal Ideation is published by Swedenborg Foundation. It's only $20. It's literally so cheap, and they made it cheap for a reason, and it's like a workbook for people who are suicidal. You can keep it in doctors' offices should have it, you know, prisons should have it, like anybody that have people that need that access where they can do the work on their own without anybody else. Um, and I want partners. I want someone like you, Kevin, who is like we vibe in the same way, we have the same similar goals, and we can all help a little bit. We just one person can't do it. We need financiers, we need producers, we need project managers, we need social media people, we need people in the entertainment industry who also want to kind of reshape the entertainment industry into producing you know, higher formed content. We need directors, we need volunteers, we need people with stories, we need event producer, you know, we need a whole community. We need Suicidal Ideation Anonymous, where a place where people can go just like AA and things like that, and can close their eyes, turn their cameras off, and just feel support and love from other people. We need community more than anything. Community, 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 and just literally like we need to come together. I mean, again, 911. We need to come together. We need try as much as you can, and it's very hard to drop the judgments and criticisms to yourself and other people around you. Move forward towards the life that you want to live, and recognize that everybody has that same right to live the way that they want to live, and just let them believe their beliefs. Let them have their conversations. You know, actually, the best way really was, you know, having conversations. So continuing that in a safe manner. But yes, thank you for asking.
Absolutely. Thank you.